1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. All right, here we go.
All right, we have microphones around the room. We'll take first question. Dustin here in the front. Oh, Sorry.
Yeah. Tyrese will play. He was tested at 5 p.m. And did very well on a. Hello? Is it working now?
Yeah.
Tyrese is going to play. He was strength tested at 5 p.m. and did very well. Went through walkthrough. There's no set minutes limit. We will watch and monitor things very closely from the beginning of the game through the entirety of the game, and we'll go from there.
That was obviously going to be my question. I guess what all has he had to do over the last 36 hours to get ready for this, and what kind of things was he, I guess, able to do in walkthrough just now?
I told you everything I'm going to tell you about it. We went through walkthrough. We walked through stuff yesterday. We've had walkthroughs the last 2 days, so. But that's where things are. He's gonna play, and that's it. Yeah.
I appreciate the honesty, the transparency. A lot of coaches don't do that. I love it. Why are you sitting up there telling us now? You could have said, lineups will be out, and whatever. You could have kicked the can down the road.
What's the point? I mean, this time of year, playing games isn't going to get you anywhere. I mean, we got a job to do tonight. We've got to get ready to battle a team that has been the best team in the league all year long, and it's a tough game. It's an elimination game. There's a lot going on. In my mind, it's best to be decisive and truthful and get down to it.
Rick, right here.
I see you.
I'm sorry. You were looking this way. I'm sorry. But when you look at what Ray J. Dennis, Enrique Freeman, Quentin, what do those guys mean, those two-way guys mean at this point in the season when they're helping you with scout team and things like that?
Well, they've been tremendous for us all year long. They're all such upbeat, hardworking guys, so grateful, appreciative, and this time of year they have an important job because they have to learn the scout stuff. They have to do it at the right pace and tempo. We need them to simulate without running through our guys, that kind of thing. And they've been great. And they all three of them had great years with the Mad Ants too.
Any other questions for Coach? All right, thank you. Joe, last one up front. Let's get the mic from over here.
I guess this would matter more if something happens with Tyrese and he can't play in the second half. But what is the importance, or is it important to keep TJ in that second unit? You know what I mean? Like the impact that he makes, but is it more so that if you can limit him to that 19 to 22 minute range?
I mean, everything's on the table this time of year as far as minutes. I mean, we're down to, a 2-game season, and so and with 2 days in between. So tonight, everything is out there, and so we'll be watching everything very closely. It's been important for him to play off the bench for us because we already have 2 point guards starting, so that makes sense, and it balances out our rotation. So,
Thank you, Rick. All right, Joel here in the front, second row on the right.
Joel Lorenzi with the Oklahoma. Hey, Mark. I imagine, I don't know, my interpretation of the whole 0-0 thing is that you're working sort of for tomorrow and not June, but this is June. This is potentially the last game of the year. How does that maybe mean something differently now?
In the same habits that we've bet on over time are what's relevant in these situations. So that, like I said yesterday, there's no new material. Same fundamentals on offense and defense are going to matter tonight in the game. Same preparation, over the last couple of days, and same psychological habits, such as that, are going to be relevant. That's why we emphasize them so continuously, so that when we're in these high-stakes situations, we're in a mode of familiarity, which I think gives us confidence.
On the left, third row, Tim.
Mark, with respect to all of that and understanding all of it, this is a high-stakes situation you've not been in before. You've never been one game away before. How successful have you been in trying to make this seem normal?
Well, it's not the first time we've been. It's not the first time. It's been the first time. We've gone through a lot of new experiences together, and haven't pretended that we're more experienced than we are. We've just tried to lean on the things that we know have made us successful and put us in this position, and continuing to bet on those in these situations. So the guys have done a great job. It's obviously, like I said, a high-stakes situation, but those stakes are actually a distraction when you boil it down. The most important thing right now is Game 6 and the first possession of Game 6, and then the next possession and the next possession after that. And we have to root back into that. We're human. We're probably going to drift at different times, but that's got to be kind of our anchor as we go through the game.
Are you in the front?
Coach, you're just one win away from the championships, and for those who have been watching your team play the way they once did back in 2012, the same anticipation, same loyalty, but just different era. What part of your game do you think best represent OKC's basketball?
I mean, we're just proud to represent the city and the organization. And I think the way that these guys compete together is the best expression that we can have. The guys go out there, they're highly competitive, and they do it together. That's what we'll do tonight. Regardless of how the game unfolds, we're going to go out there and compete as a unit. The guys have done a great job of that to this point. And I think that's the most relatable way we can operate, for our fans and for everybody.
Rachel, second row on the left.
How have you seen Shea's leadership manifest itself over these past couple days?
Same as he always is. He really doesn't change in any circumstance. You could look at him in any situation, and it's pretty consistent. And he's got an unbelievable ability to be present, poised, but confident. And he'll bring that to the game tonight too. So we got a lot of guys like that. I think one of the great qualities of this team is the consistency of approach. And we've seen that over the last 48 hours. We've seen that throughout the finals. This isn't the first big game we've played in these finals. They've all been big.
How do you see that confidence affecting the other guys?
I mean, his confidence certainly is contagious. He's been a huge, and that's not just right now. That's been continuous through time. He's always had kind of an uncanny ability to stay confident through all the ups and downs, stay consistent and grounded even when we're in the ups. And I think there's a contagiousness to that. I've said that many times. I think Dort's fearlessness and competitive spirit, Cameron Williams' program-first mindset, and his confidence, I think those are really like bedrocks of our team, and we need those guys and everybody in the game tonight.
Second row center.
Coach, there's a lot of distractions in today's world. There can be, we seem to be a lot about highlights and getting on TV, but your team seems to have that even-keeled mindset. How have you been able to keep that all throughout the playoffs and up till now?
It starts with who they are. They're great competitors. They're intelligent people. They understand what they need to do to be successful, and then there's kind of a contagiousness to that around the locker room, and they've done an incredible job of that, of staying focused. And obviously tonight we'll test that, as all these games do. But I have the utmost confidence in the team's ability to stay present and to compete together, possession by possession in the game.
Next row back on the left.
Have you seen the guys look to Caruso anymore as you go deeper into the playoffs?
It's hard not to. He's a very prominent voice. You know, he's very extroverted as a competitor, and so that puts the spotlight on him inside the team quite a bit. But it's a pretty flat thing, and I think what's unique about our team and probably Indiana is that everybody brings something different, and everybody brings something that's inside of who they are, and that's just who he is, you know. But we get a lot of leadership from a lot of different people, you know, and all across the roster, not just the guys that play the most. I mentioned Jay Will, you know, after one of those games the other night, and so that's, I think, what makes our team function the way it does, is that everybody's kind of got their fingerprints on it, but he certainly does.
Over here, right?
Mark, you mentioned throughout the series, earlier in the series, that you always have to have a menu kind of preparing for what could happen or can't happen in the game. With Tyrese and him being able to play tonight, but you don't know to what level or degree, is there a heightened sense of that menu, or how do you approach a guy who you know is very good but is working through something?
Well, in terms of the menu, every game's different. We don't know what Indiana's going to do, and we don't guess. You know, we prepare, and then we get in the game and we react to what's happening. And as it relates to Halliburton, I said yesterday, I'll say it again, you know, he's a great player. And if there's one thing that we know, you don't underestimate great players, you know, especially in these situations. We're expecting his best punch. Indiana's a great team. We're expecting their best punch. And so we're not, you know, I have no doubt he's dealing with stuff, but we're expecting him to come out and play like a great player would play. And we have to prepare for that. That's how you maintain full respect of the opponent.
Standing on the right.
Coach, how are you going to celebrate if you win tonight? And would you, in a way, maybe prefer to win at home rather than out of town? And separately, what are the plans regarding Nikola Topic for the next season, or maybe even this summer in LA, in Las Vegas?
You're really hitting the whole continuum right now. I'm just going to skip to the second part. I've said before, Nikola Topic has showed a very unique professionalism and maturity. He's really impressed people, I just think, with his approach. It's hard to be out for the season. You're on the team, but you're not as connected to it as the rest of the guys. He didn't travel to many games, you know, just like functional things like that. During practice, he's working on rehab. You know, he's not out there at every practice. And so that's hard, you know, because I think at times it can be pretty dark and feel pretty, you feel pretty detached. And yet he's maintained an unbelievable consistency, approach, professionalism, maturity, and those things bode well for him. You know, it's even more impressive with how young of a person he is.
Again, standing on the right, Aurelio.
Hi, Mark. I was asking the guys the last days where they have their mental strongness from, like if they have like a mental coach or something, because they're so locked in. And they keep on saying that it comes from you, the way how you teach them. And you're still also a very young coach. And I was wondering, where did you get that from, that you know the way how you teach them so be mentally strong?
I would argue it comes from them, you know, and part of one of the things when we started the playoffs that I thought a lot about is just making sure that they be who they are. You know, I think that's been my biggest job since the playoffs started. We need to just be who we are and bet on that, because it's enough. You know, they're great competitors. They have great makeup. They compete together. They approach things the right way. They're great workers. And so a lot of my role, I think, is just helping them tap into that. And that's what I've tried to stay focused on during this run.
Fifth row on the left.
Hey, Coach. You guys were eliminated in the second round last year, and then the year before that, you were in the play-in tournament, and then didn't make the playoffs. How did you grow so fast as a team?
I think just staying present, you know, not having assumptions, letting things unfold. I think, you know, when you just attack every day and you stack the days and you stack the possessions, stack the games, that's going to take you as far as you're capable of in that moment, you know. And so we're obviously further now than we were then, but I thought we maxed out what we were capable of at those times, and I think that's the value of that type of approach. And we need to approach that tonight. You know, tonight's a game we really want to win, but the best way to do that is to just be present in the moment, stack the possessions, throw our best punch, and see where that lands us.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep, thanks.